The 5 suspects allegedly linked to the recruitment of South Africans to fight in the Russia-Ukraine war are expected to appear at the Kempton Park Magistrate's Court tomorrow for a formal bail application. Nonkululeko Mantula, Thulani Mazibuko, Xolani Ntuli, Siphamandla, Tshabalala and Sifiso Mabena are linked to alleged Russian military recruitment networks operating inside the country, and they were apprehended last week. South Africa's investigation into foreign recruitment has now widened to include the plight of its own citizens stranded in Ukraine, where young men were lured into conflict zones under false pretenses, we are told, leaving families back home desperate for answers. Officials warn that these activities not only undermine national sovereignty, but also expose citizens to grave risks in volatile war zones. We discuss this now further. I'm joined by Thulani Mahlangu, who speaks on behalf of all the families of those men that are, trapped in Ukraine. Good afternoon, and thank you for your time. I remember when I first heard this story, Mr. Mahlangu, to be honest with you, I thought it was one of those fake stories that was, in my mind, there was simply no way this could have happened. And no matter how many times I've heard it being explained, I still grapple with understanding the circumstances around which your family members find themselves in Ukraine. What's your best understanding as these families, with the benefit of time, having spoken to each other, having spoken to authorities, asked around, how did these, your family members end up in this situation?
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you to the viewers. It has affected the families very much dearly, because these guys, they were told that they were going for bodyguard training to be VIPs. And then when they reached Russia around July, they found themselves being given contracts written in Russian, and they couldn't understand what was meant on that particular contract. So until some South Africans, to do Zuma, Sambudla, and others convinced them to sign those particular contracts, because they were refusing to sign those contracts. And then after signing those contracts, and then they were taken to a place called Pskov. It's where they found their training for a month. And then therefore they were told that they are entering into a military training, and then they are preparing them for the war. So it went on until such time that in September, the former President Zuma was informed about that particular training. And then he wrote a letter to the commanders of the groups. And those particular commanders, they were prepared to release the boys. And then they invited them to a line somewhere to one of these commanders, to dinner. When they got there, they had a video call with Duduzile Zuma Sambudla, and then it's where everything changed. That no, there is another letter which is written by the former president, which says the boys or the men can remain there and continue their 12 months training. And then it's where we had a problem. We've been calling the DECO, Department of International Relations. I went personally to the Russian embassy, Ukraine embassy, but we found that at Ukraine embassy, they were not aware that there are people South Africans who are on the side of Russians. So, but what they did, they told us that no, our boys must surrender. So we called them and they said, no, but it will be difficult for them because they are not in the same place. And then they might be shot dead if they surrender, the Russian might kill them. So until now, recently, that we made some contact with the South African embassy, people in Russia and in Ukraine. And then they said, no, government is busy communicating with the Russian government. But the difficulty is that the army which they are participating in, they are not the state army. It's a private company which it's controlled by individuals.
Yeah.
So when you approach them legally so or formally so, it will be difficult for our people to get them that side
Yeah.
until maybe we get the mercenaries, the commanders of the mercenaries, and then they'll be able to assist us to get them back. But
yeah.
we understand that they can release them. There is a certain amount of money which they paid. Actually, they bought them from these other South Africans who are sending them abroad. They bought them for these 17 people. They paid something like 14 million, as we understand. And then these commanders, because we're having contact with them, they said if they can get the 14 million, they can release them. Even they can take them to the airport.
All right, Mr.
Mahlangu. We found ourselves in a situation that we cannot raise that particular money.
Yeah, apologies.
But
apologies, Mr. Mahlangu. You raised something important that I think before you move on and tell us the other details, you are talking about the involvement of money, the payment of people that allegedly on the South African side are facilitating the movement of these young men to that situation. And you mentioned the figure of 14 million rand. You are hearing this, is it what you are saying, that you're hearing this directly from commanders of these groups that are responsible for recruiting mercenaries to fight in the war? Is that what they are telling you?
Yes. There is a certain commander, his name is Polov. We're having contact with him on a daily basis, maybe. He's the one who said, no, if these people pay back our money, then we'll be able to release these particular people. And then we can even accompany them to the airport.
Sure.
So it's what he said.
So does that mean this has become something of a stalemate in the sense that perhaps the people who received that payment allegedly are perhaps not forthcoming with returning that money to the recruiters, and now you as families are perhaps thinking if it was possible for you, you would raise that money so that it's paid almost like a ransom?
Yes, because we some parents approached the former president Jacob Zuma to assist with the money. But to their amazement, Jacob Zuma was not aware of these mercenary actions. He was told that these boys went there for VIP training. So they spoke to him and then they asked if it's possible, can't he assist with the 14 million so that it can be given to these mercenary groups? So he promised, because we had some communication last week before this weekend, he promised, and then he even spoke to those guys that side, because we were able to give him the contact numbers, whom to contact that side if he wants those guys released.
Say a bit more about the family members, especially just from your side, who in your family is in Russia, and perhaps what makes you believe as a family that your family member is not someone who willingly went to take part in that fighting?
Lifamia, it's one of my family members, and then they are complaining on daily basis. Actually, now it's very cold in Russia. During winter, it's cold, and then some of them, they were sent to the Frontline, and I think all of them, because at some stage, DECO asked that they must send their passport and so on, so that they can arrange some flight to come back. All of them, they responded because they wanted to come back home.
So when you say they've been sent to the front lines, what are the implications of that? I think I have an imagination of what it means, but when DECO says, provide your passports and we can facilitate your return, what are the implications of them being on the front lines for that?
On the front line, because as we speak, they are not in Russia, they're in Ukraine, at the war zone. And then when they say they are going to the front line, it means that they are going to engage in a war with the Ukrainians.
Yeah. So have you been able to
Yes.
have
So
direct...
that is frontline, and then you must remember that there are two of them who passed on, but they are from Botswana. Two of them they were hit by a drone, and then they passed on instantly.
Sure. Wow. Have you been able to make contact with these family members? And perhaps, I don't know, I mean, the fact that it sounds like progress, that you are in conversation with those that you call commanders of the mercenary groups that are recruiting. It sounds like some kind of progress. But has it come to the point where you are able to have direct contact with your family members, video calling, receiving messages from them, texts and video messages and the likes?
Yes, we do. We had some conversation with Lifa this morning. We even yesterday, we are having constant communication on a daily basis.
And what are they telling you about their conditions? You mentioned the cold, that's one thing, but also I can't imagine, it must be harsh conditions.
Yes.
Because it's in the front lines. But what else are they telling you about their conditions and their
Yes.
desire to return home?
Yeah, their condition it's very bad because they are separated into groups. Some are in the place called Kiviv, Donbass, and so on. They're separated in groups, and then amongst them there are these Russian soldiers who are with them. And then the last time, when was it? I think it's a week back. Some drone attacked where they were. Fortunately enough, after they left to their resting place, the place was bombed. 14 Russian soldiers were killed in that bombing. So and one of them had a heart attack. He was taken to the hospital yesterday. Who is Mangaliso Mzobe, but he is in a steady condition now because the doctors are making their best that he becomes well.
Mr. Mahlangu, I've got two more questions for you, and then we can, end this conversation for this afternoon. What do you say to South Africans? Because I imagine that there will be South Africans who are watching this who are skeptical, who are saying, you can claim now that they went there, they were lured there under false pretenses, they are actually victims of circumstances and being taken by people who knew exactly what was going on, but they themselves did not go there with that intention of taking part. You may have pockets in society that say, I simply don't buy that story. These are people who went for military training because they wanted to go and either to fight on the Russian front lines or perhaps for other political objectives, one way or another. What do you say to South Africans who would hold that view?
What I can say to the South Africans is that what these guys are saying that side is the truth. There is an element of fraud and forgery because in September, the president wrote a letter to release them because former president, they didn't know that they were going to join the military wing. But later, there was another letter which was forged. The signature of the president was forged. And they say, no, the president says they can continue the training. And then what is bad about that, one of these commanders informed us that when you sign this particular contract, you don't come back. If you are fortunate to make it in 12 months, because the 12 months contract, if you make it in 12 months, then you'll be like, you'll get a bonus and come home. And then even if you die there, they bury you in a mass grave, as it happened to those Botswana guys. They were buried in a mass grave. The other jobs which they are doing, these South Africans, who are not in the front line at times. Their duty is to pick up pieces of people who were blasted by the drones and so on. And then after that, they dig a hole and then they put everything in that particular hole.
Sure.
So it's
Wow.
very difficult for them pick up pieces of human beings
Yeah.
to bury them.
Lastly, Mr. Mahlangu, you've been appealing, as the public, we've been aware of your appeals for at least the last 2 months, but I don't know how long this whole saga has been ongoing. What's your assessment of the South African government's effort to try and assist you and try and assist them to return home? What has happened? What hasn't happened?
I phoned the president office. I spoke to Mr. Vincent Magwenya, and then he said somebody is busy with the investigation, and then that particular person will contact me so that I can give him the information which he might need. And then we understand that there are some DECO people in that side who are busy negotiating with government. But those people are asking us the information. Rather than before going there, they should have come to us because we are even with all the info so that we can release those guys. But and then since I spoke to Mr. Vincent Magoya, I think before the G20, but we thought that no, they're busy with the G20. That is why you cannot get hold of him. But now when we phone them, they just decline the call. We don't know what's happening.
Sure. All right. Thank you for sharing that with us.
And then only the DECO, because we can speak to DECO people, the Department of International Relations, they are helping.
Yeah. All right. Let's leave it there for this afternoon. Mr. Mahlangu, thank you for sharing those details with us and just opening up really about what you as families are going through as you try and facilitate those conversations aimed at securing the return of those South Africans who are stuck in Ukraine. So that's the situation. It's an extraordinary story.